Yesterday, I was this close to getting rid of the sniper system and going back to a carburetor. Today, I'm this close. So I got this sniper unit about 4 years ago. I installed it on there, and the whole idea is better fuel economy, never have to mess with it, maybe do some beep boop 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 computer stuff on it, and just like set it and forget it. But in the last 4 years, I've messed with the sniper system way more than I've ever messed with any carburetor. I mean, I've called Holley bajillions of times. I've read more forums than I've ever read my entire life. And it just feels like it's a constant thing that I have to constantly be working on or be worried about. It'll run great and then something will happen and it'll get all kind of weird. And then it'll like fix itself. But it's really frustrating. So recently my truck has kind of been running like crap. It's going way lean. It's almost like the IAC thing is not figuring out what to do. Full tank of gas. It's doing this crap. Look at the IAC going crazy. Here's the thing, with the carburetor, you can pretty much jet it and dial it in and it'll overcompensate for a lot of issues with your engine. But these fuel injection systems are really temperamental. They kind of expose problems with your engine. So if your engine isn't perfect to begin with, then the sniper system is gonna not really work. Or really any of the EFI systems for that matter. So with that in mind, I gotta do a whole bunch of checks to make sure that my engine is good so that I can rule that out and zero in on the sniper system. So the first thing to do is just a visual inspection. I'm just gonna look over everything. Right off the bat on the passenger side, you can see just below the battery, these plug wires are covered with some crap. I hope that's not battery acid. The header doesn't look too well either, although I think I do remember I spilled some tranny fluid on the headers, so that could be what that is. As I was looking at the vacuum lines, I found this. There was a giant crack in the hose that goes to the power brake booster. That for sure was causing a vacuum leak. Vacuum leaks can cause all kinds of problems with your EFI system. And the hose that goes to my little boost gauge has this T on here. It had a cap on the end of it and that cap completely fell apart. So definitely some vacuum leaks. So I just snipped the bad part of the hose off and reattached it, and then I put another cap on the end of the T for the boost gauge. Now I think I'll fire it up and we'll see if it runs any better, and maybe we'll check for more vacuum leaks. So the way to check for vacuum leaks is to take some starter fluid and just kind of spray around the base of the carb, any hoses that are vacuum lines, and if the engine revs up, you know you got a vacuum leak because that vacuum will suck the starting fluid into the intake, which kind of acts like fuel. Well, doing the old starter spray trick, it doesn't seem that there's any vacuum leaks, which is good. Still seems to be kind of idling kind of weird, like it's like surging or something. And I did have the idle air control set to about 5, somewhere in there. Because it's supposed to be between 2 and 10 according to the instructions, so I figured 5 was a happy medium. And now it's reading 10 or 11. Maybe it just needs to be driven for a little bit to bring that back down. Not really sure. But at least we know there's no vacuum leaks, so check that off the list and let's move on to the next thing. There's lots of ways you can check for spark. A lot of people will have your engine running and you'll take your spark plug out with it attached to the wire and go up against really close to something grounded and see if there's a spark going across. What I'm gonna do is just hook up my timing light to each of these spark plug wires, and that way when the timing light flashes, I can see how the spark plug is firing. Now as you can see, I'm getting light from all of these wires, but it's not really consistent, which kind of has me a little concerned. We are getting spark to each plug, so that's good. Reading your spark plugs is one of the best mechanic tricks that you can do because it tells you the overall health of your combustion chamber, which is really important because that's what makes your engine work. They don't look terrible, but there are some carbon deposits, which indicates a rich environment, which I don't understand because if the AFR reading is correct, 13 to 14, somewhere in there, and it seems to go lean quite a bit. So maybe it's overcompensating, but this could be the cause of the misfire. Some of these have this grayish, ashy kind of stuff, which could also indicate atomized oil burning, which is caused by bad oil seals or guides. So cylinder heads, maybe? It could also be indicative of a dirty air cleaner, so I went ahead and cleaned my air cleaner as well. I think what I'm gonna do is just go ahead and replace all these spark plugs with some new ones and see if that does anything different. And next we're gonna check our fuel system, starting with fuel pressure. Now as you can see, we're right at about 50 PSI. This should be at 58.5 PSI. So before I adjust this regulator, I'm gonna go check my fuel filters just to make sure that they're not clogged. Tasty. So that one's good. Let's check the other one. That one seems to be good. So now that we know our fuel filters are good, we can dial in our pressure regulator back to 58.5 PSI. So just as I was dialing in the fuel pressure regulator, this thing started sputtering again. It did this once before, a few months ago, and it somehow fixed itself, but it's smoking and sputtering and acting like it's running out of gas. But I know I've got gas in there, I've got fuel pressure. It's freaking frustrating. I don't even know what that could be. I think I'm gonna let it cool off a little bit and we'll just kind of go from there. Sometimes you can also get a clogged injector. Specifically on the Sniper system, what you want to look for down in the barrels down there, you should see just some kind of shimmering, just signs that gas is being sprayed into all 4 of them. If it's only shooting on 2, then you likely have a problem with your unit, and you might need to send it back in at that point. Morning. We got a lot done yesterday. Today we're going to check for exhaust leaks. And the best way to do that is to use a shop vac and some soapy water. So like most modern cars, these aftermarket EFI systems use a computer and a bunch of sensors all around your engine in order for the computer to know how to make it work. One of the most important sensors is the O2 sensor, which tells the computer the air to fuel ratio. If you've got a leak upstream from your O2 sensor, it could cause excess air to get in there and faulty readings and just kind of for it to go haywire, which is kind of what it's doing. So I have my suspicions. So we're gonna hook up our shop vac to our exhaust, pressurize the system. You wanna make sure of a couple of things before you do that. First, you wanna make sure that your engine is cold, because when it's hot, heat will expand the metal and that might mask some of your exhaust leaks. But also when you spray the soapy water on there, you don't want it to evaporate right away because we're looking for air bubbles. And then also you want to make sure that you clean your shop vac. Make sure there's no dirt. Change the filter to a new one. So you don't want all that crap going into your engine. And if you got dual exhaust, you'll need to plug one so that you pressurize it from the other one. Sometimes you can fix this problem just by retightening the bolts, but I got a bad feeling that these gaskets are bad. I mean, I don't know. Do you think that could be a problem? Maybe, probably. Whether or not these were causing the problem, they needed to be replaced anyway. Well, I got a set of these header gaskets from Remflex, and these are made of some soft aluminum, so when you clamp down on them, they conform to your headers and your heads, and they're supposed to seal way better than just normal gaskets. I also got the ones for the collector flanges, so we'll install these and we'll see if this fixes our problem. All right, I got the header gaskets replaced, I got the flange gaskets replaced, and no more leaks, those are good and sealed. So now we'll move on to the next thing to test, and this probably should have been the first thing we tested, but we're gonna test that O2 sensor. These O2 sensors have a heater in them that are electronically controlled, and that heating element is oftentimes what goes bad. So first things first, we gotta test the heating element. So my O2 sensor is a wideband O2 sensor. It's got 6 wires coming out of it. Yours might have 4 or 2 or 3 or 1 maybe. So you'll need to double check. I believe on the 4-wire sensors, you're looking for the 2 black wires, but on mine, it's the gray and the white one. And we're gonna set our multimeter to ohms just to check for resistance. If you don't see any resistance between these two heating element wires, then your O2 sensor is bad and it needs to be replaced. As you can see, there's a reading happening, and so this one is good. Second thing we need to test is to see if this thing will actually go from lean to rich. So to do that, we're going to take the O2 sensor out of the exhaust, and we have to be able to turn the system on. And unfortunately for the sniper system, I have to have the engine running for that to happen. Because on the screen, we're looking for the readout. And then you just need a rag with some brake cleaner. And when the O2 sensor is just out in the open air, it should read all the way lean. But when we put it in the rag soaked with brake cleaner, it should sweep all the way rich. As long as it does, your O2 sensor is reading properly, and you can go ahead and reinstall it and you're good. So it's been a few months, driven my truck lots of miles over the last few months, and nothing's changed. It's exactly the same. It'll run great for a long time and then just won't work. Makes it to where it's unreliable, and I don't really trust my truck that much, which is really frustrating because I want to. I want to drive it. I want to trust it. I want to think it'll make it there without leaving me stranded. In the meantime, while I've been driving it, I looked up a few different videos online, and I tried a few things. Like one was take down the AC kickdown all the way to 0, and it seemed to work for this one guy, and I did that and nothing. Still the same. In fact, on the way out here, it started running like crap, and it's a 10-minute drive from my house to the shop here, and I didn't even know if I was gonna make it. So pulled off to the side of the road, shut her down, let it sit for a little while, went out and took a look at it, and nothing didn't seem wrong with it. So let it sit for about 10 minutes, turn it back on, and now it's running fine now that I got here to the shop. And now I'm kind of scared to drive it back home. Should never feel that way. So conclusion, I think at least for this engine, the Sniper's no good. I think the engine needs to be brand new, like from like Blueprint or some kind of crate engine, or needs to be like freshly rebuilt. And then I think at this point, the self-tuning thing, I'm not super sold on. Probably have to go to a dyno to get it really dialed in. For right now, the old Black Widow, it's gonna go back to carburetor. I've got one that's got an electric choke. I've got a few other things in the mix. In fact, I've got a whole new engine I'm gonna build for this truck that I got from a guy I'm super excited about. You're gonna have to wait for that on a future video though, so make sure you subscribe, make sure you hit that like button down there if this helped you out. Grab yourself a t-shirt, a hat over here at this link, and check out the social medias down here. I'll see you on the next one.